formalize all the good things, all the exciting things that my colleagues have been sharing with you. This is the area of discipline. So the last time we met, we looked at projects, we looked at the marks of a good PM, we looked at how project management is usually done, and then we looked at two main tried and tested methodologies or frameworks. We looked at Prince2, we looked at PMBOK. Okay, and PMBOK stands for the project management body of knowledge. Now, these things are necessary. These areas are necessary because this is where your discipline comes into play. I might have mentioned, and I keep on mentioning, that anybody actually can be a project manager, okay? But if your projects run over budget, if your projects do not have sufficient planning, if your projects do not have sufficient control, if your projects do not deliver what they were supposed to deliver, then there is a question mark around who you are as a project manager and what you have in place. Okay, so today what we're going to do, with that bearing that in mind, we're going to look at project management competencies. These are the areas that every project manager should be attaining to. Okay, these are the areas that, you know, if you have a good sense of governance, if you have a good sense of stakeholder management, if you have a good sense of financial control and risk management, then, you know, these are the marks of a good PM. All right, and that will only come with experience. Okay, once you've understood the fundamentals, once you've understood the best practices that are being put out there by the various professional organizations out there, once you've understood all those things, right, then you would have to get a lot of experience around it, particularly if you want to be a project manager. Now, there are, I might have mentioned this last time, there are various areas of project management. There are various professions within project management. So again, it's all about right now as students, while you're in that student mode, while you don't have too much responsibility and accountability in life, now is the time to really start to look at your career. What is it that I'm enjoying all this, some interaction with TCRT, but what is it that I want to do? Okay, do I want to be a project manager? Do I want to be a planner? Do I want to be a business analyst? Okay, do I want to get into digital project management, or do I want to go into engineering? Because project management spans across all industries. They span across all industries. So therefore, there is a lot to think about. And getting your competencies right now is that key thing that you need to be doing while you are still in this learning time of your of project management. Now is the time to start to understand the backbone of what you are going to become. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So, okay, what are project management competencies? Okay, so when you look at the definition of that word, competency, right? What does it mean? Okay, so you've got to understand what competency means, and then you'll be able to apply it to project management. Okay, so when we say someone is competent at something, you're saying that, you know, the ability to do something successfully or efficiently. All right, so when we talk about project management competencies, we're talking about those various areas in project management that you need to have a very good understanding of to be able to be a successful project manager, to be able to be successful in project management. One of the things I want to leave you with today is I want you guys to start thinking about what area you want to go into. Not everybody has what it takes to be a project manager, okay? Not everybody has what it takes to be a successful planner. So begin to look at yourself, right? And think, okay, what is it that I want to do with all this beautiful knowledge that is being shared with me right now? Don't find yourself in a situation whereby, okay, I'm kind of like don't have a choice and I've got to just go with this, okay? Understand what it is that you're getting into, which is why at TC Resource Technology, what we like to do is we like to give you a foundation. So the talk classes are the foundation. And then, you know, we want to take you into an area whereby you can now start to apply those those taught classes. But the thing is, what you need to do to be successful in project management is you really need to take some of your time to understand these competencies. Once you understand the competencies, you're not going to get into a situation whereby you get onto the job and people have different ways of approaching things. Not everybody is very good at following methodology or framework. All right. So you need to know things for yourself. Once you know those things for yourself, you'll be able to apply the best practice and be able to have the outcomes. All right. So that's the reason why we're looking at project management competencies this morning. Okay. Bear with me for just 1 minute. There's a particular slide that I've decided to include, but it's hidden at the moment, so I want to unhide it. Okay. Okay. So what I decided to do at the very last minute is include a slide about that lists all project management competencies. And I want you to take a note of these particular competencies. Now, this is what is prescribed by the Association of Project Management here in the United Kingdom. They suggest that all of these areas, okay, are the areas that are really important in project management. Okay, now as a project manager or someone who works in project management, there'll be certain areas that will apply to you. Okay, so at this point in time, once you have the recording, just have a sense of what these are, have a sense of what they mean, okay, and then have a sense of, okay, because of what I'm going to do, this will be my focus. Okay, this is where I'm going to focus on. All right, so the idea right now is to understand that these different areas are the areas that are being suggested as the areas for project management competency. All right, and I'm not going to read all through them. You know, once you get the video, have a look at them, begin to research them, and begin to understand how they apply to the area that you have chosen. Okay, so obviously we don't have the time to go through all of them, so I've just picked up like three, maybe 4 or 5 areas that we're going to just look at today as time permits. Okay, so the very first area we're going to look at is budgeting and cost control. Okay, so being able to develop and agree budgets for change initiatives and to control forecasts and actual costs against the budgets. Now, as a project manager, you have 3 area constraints. Money is one of those areas. You are most of the time given a fixed amount of money to go and produce a fixed outcome. Now, this is where the competency comes into play, because generally what happens is that when you are in the project management arena, when you are in the reality of delivering project management, it's very easy to kind of like be very reactive. It's very easy for you to kind of like let the days kind of like go by and you're not really controlling anything. For a number of assignments that I have been on, and other projects that I've worked in, one of the things that I realized is that when project managers are not literally seeing their budgets right before their face, they are unaware of the impact of their decisions on their budgets. So Mr. Davidson just mentioned before we started the session that he talked about the day rate for a lot of project managers. So imagine you are the leader for that project management, for that piece of work. So you have about maybe 6 or so people, depending on the size of your project, that are getting anything from £300 a day to possibly £700, £800 a day. The fact that those people are coming to work, whether you guys are achieving anything or not, they are getting paid and it's coming out of your budget. So that's why you have to be very strong in budgeting and cost control. And then there are the elements to look out for. So this is a bit of a cycle, all right? So generally, as a project manager, you need to be able to be very good at cost estimation. all right? You need to be able to sit down and think, who are the people? What are the materials? What are the tools? What is the expertise? What is it that I need to deliver this project? So as you enter the project, there are things to consider. Don't just say, right, you land a job with a firm tomorrow, they assign you to a project, and bam, you're off. No, what you have to first of all do is you need to step back and first of all do some cost estimation. Remember, the budget that will be given to you will be fixed. It will be fixed. If you need to change that budget, you need to come in and justify those situations. So before you accept any project whatsoever, one of the things that you need to do is to be able to go through this cycle successfully. Do you even know how they arrived at the budget that they've given you? You have no idea how they've arrived at the budget that they've given you. So how do you know that it is right? So developing an approximation of overall costs of resources needed to complete the project, you need to be good at that. If you're the kind of person that you shrink away from figures, you're not very good at planning, you're not very good at cost estimation, you're not very good at really sitting down and being able to maintain a budget. As a project manager, in particular, challenges. Could you please mute your mic as you come into the session? Excuse me. Could you mute your mic, please?
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Okay, so when you come into a project, whatever is given to you as a budget, you need to test it. You need to break it down. You need to have a sense of this is going to be enough. And then once you've done that, I can still hear somebody in the background. What you're doing is you're spoiling the recording for other people. We have to be of that. Okay. So once you've come into the project, you've got your estimation. That's your estimate, right? Then now, once you're now on the project, now you've got to have good budgeting skills. Okay. Now you've got to be able to allocate. You've been given a bulk of money. You've tested it overall. It's looking good. You need to be able to split it across the phases. You need to be able to split it across the work packages. You need to be able to split it in terms of the resource. And you need to be able to keep that going. Okay? There is such a thing as what we call stage control within project management, where you enter a stage, and because particularly in the UK, where we are in a situation where we use a lot of contractors that are paid on a daily rate, there needs to be a tight control over moving from one phase to another. So one of the techniques that we use is called stage control. So we're in the planning phase. So you shouldn't have any member of your team working on the development phase. Why are they working on the development phase? You haven't even been given permission to cross over to the next stage. So where is that money that he is going to claim as his day rate? That value that he has delivered, is it going to be something that will take the project forward? So these are the kind of things. So as a project manager, you really have to be very good at being able to estimate and have a budget, be able to allocate, have a sense of, I know that I need 3 developers. I know that I need 2 coders. How much is that going to cost me? Okay. And then once you've got from cost estimating to cost budgeting, then you've got to get to cost control. Now, this is where the big challenges are. You've got to have an overall sense of whoever is working to your project. This is where tools like tools that keep time, where people are submitting a timesheet, and you're being able to question that, okay, so I see that you have allocated 10 hours to my project, but what have those 10 hours produced? Where are your tasks? Okay, so immediately you begin to see that as a project manager, you have some balancing to do. You've got to be a solid communicator. You've got to be somebody who is firm, but also somebody who is approachable. So you've got to be able to balance that respect, where people are not going to take you for granted, but at the same time, they're going to like you enough to deliver. It's a balance. Because if you're challenging people all the time, then, you know, that might rub them up the wrong way. But it's necessary, because whether or not you like it, that money is going to come out of your budget. Okay, and then and I think the whole cycle actually begins with resource planning. Okay, the cycle starts with resource planning, then you go to cost estimating, then you go to cost budgeting, then you get to cost control. So being able to define, right, being able to, so if we start the cycle, being able as a project manager, if you are knowledgeable about this project that you're about to walk into, this is where tools like lessons learned or previous plans, these things are very useful. Because let's say, for instance, you're a new project manager. You're not very clued up in terms of the industry you're about to walk into. Then go and look at what other people have done. Ask for previous plans, ask for previous budgets, ask for previous lessons that have been learned from a project that is very similar to yours. Okay? And there you will be able to get a sense of what the resources look like. And there you'll be able to start to estimate the cost. You go to your finance department and you know, tell them that, you know, generally I want somebody who does this. I want these kind of materials. I want these kind of tools. What are the costs that have been featured in the past? You know, most of the time you really should have a preferred supplier list anyway. So talking to those people within that where vendor management or supplier list management or procurement, if you work as if you're going into an organization that is not so big and they don't have those defined areas, these are the things that you would need to start preparing for. But the key thing I want you to take away today is that don't just accept a budget like that. You've got to break it out, you've got to test it, and you've got to make sure that it works. If it doesn't work, you raise an issue and you say, look, guys, this is going to be an issue, okay? Or it's going to be a risk, because right now this budget is not going to deliver the outcomes that you are paying for. You raise that very early on in your project, okay? Right, so the next thing that we're going to look at is the business case, right? The business case is that element of project management that a lot of people struggle with, okay? So if you're not a business analyst, if you're planning to be, let me start it this way. If you're planning to be a business analyst, one of your key tools is being able to construct a business case. Okay, being able to be part of a team that can contribute effectively. And generally in the project management world, you have the project manager and the business analyst coming together as a partnership to work on the business case. Okay, so the business case is what provides the justification for undertaking and continuing with a change initiative. All right, what does that mean? So in order for you to say, people, this piece of change, this project, this whatever it is that you want to do, this is the justification of it. That's what the business case is supposed to do. But in reality, you will find that you walk into a lot of situations whereby they haven't even thought about the justification of a project. So how do you know when it is viable? How do you know when to call it a day? There are times in projects where you have to call it a day. Even if the money is available, even if the people are available, but if there is no justification for it anymore, what's the point? Okay, so now where are the times whereby that could happen? What if regulation comes into play? Something that is beyond your company's strategy, something beyond your company's existence. As in the powers that be, the government of the day, the maybe on a world scale, have decided that we are going to bring a regulation. Now, it now happens that the project that you're working on is actually not incongruent with that with that regulation. Do you just continue to run the project just because. No, you don't. This is where your business case comes into play. You go back and you look at the justification. What are the reasons why we went into this project in the first place? What are the reasons? Why did we go into it? Once you've looked at it, but the fact of the matter is that if you didn't document it to begin with, how are you going to be able to use it as a roadmap while you're in it? What's going to remind you? And then another thing that happens with project management is there tends to be what do you call turnover. So the project manager that started the project 2 years ago may not be there for the rest of the entirety of the journey. So is that the business case is very important for whoever is coming in, because they've got to understand where you guys were coming from when you set up this project. Okay, so now what we have here are kind of like elements. Now this is not set in stone. Okay, it depends on the organization. It depends on what it is that is important to them. But generally, you will find that a business case has an executive summary, something that summarizes the overall objective. Okay, it will summarize the benefits. It will talk about the return on investment. It will talk about the solution that is being preferred. It will give a general overview of what is going on, what is to be expected. Okay, that's what it will do. So you got your executive summary, then you have to state the challenge or the goal. You know, the things that are, it's sometimes what you'll find in I think in any profession is that there's sometimes when we just say, well, that's obvious now. We don't need to write that down. You do. The most obvious things are the easiest things to overlook. So you might as well just go ahead and do it. Since it's that easy, just go ahead and do it. Write down the challenge or write down the goal that you're going for. These are the justifications. Okay? And then when you've written down your challenge and you've written down your goal, then you come to your solution. There's always a problem that needs to be solved. There's an opportunity to go after. Then you write the solution. The solution could be anything. It could be bringing in new people. It could be changing the way that work is done. It could be bringing in technology. Okay? It could be that you want to change direction as an organization. And how you are going to do that, that would all have been stated here. The challenge or the goal will be stated. Then the solution, whether it is a mix of all of the things that I've just mentioned, will then be written down. Now, that solution has a cost. It has a cost. That also should be documented. And then after all said and done, we've got from the executive summary to the challenge, to the goal, to the solution, to the cost. Now, what are the benefits we should be looking at? Benefit management is actually quite tricky because there are times where the benefits are not going to be tangible. So say, for instance, you're an organization and you want to improve customer awareness. What does that even mean? So that would then have to be translated into tangible things because customer awareness is not something that you can touch. So when you say that customer awareness, okay, we want to increase customer awareness, that's the reason for this project. So how do you now translate customer awareness into something that you can see? Right? So this is where you now have to really now look at the benefits and outline them and say, if a customer is aware of us, these are the things that will be manifested. These are the things that will happen when a customer is aware of us. If we go to, say, for instance, we want to go to the area of Ikeja. Okay, let's even forget about Ikeja. Let's say there was an organization that was targeting university students and they wanted to use LASU as a case study. Okay. In order for them to say, okay, for us to be able to say that the students in LASU are aware of us, at least 60% of them, when we send out our people, they walk up to them and say, do you know about this organization? At least 60% of them should be able to say yes. So now that scenario that I've painted to you now, you need to be able to document that and be able to show what that will cost you, how that will solve your problem, and what is the benefit to the organization. And once you've done all of that, then you have your execution timeline. That's your plan. How long is it going to take? How many people do we need to walk up to how many people are in LASU, for instance? How many students are in LASU? What does 60% equate to? How many people do we need to be walking up to all these people, right? How many people do we need to be able to cover that in the period of time that we have set? All of that will be detailed in your execution timeline. Okay, now, like I said, this is not definitive. This is not, oh, this is a business case. No, what you'll find is that there'll be different types of business cases for different types of organizations, but generally these are the things that are important for any business case. These are the things that are important for any business case. Now we come to the tricky one, benefits management. Okay, benefits, because again, what you're going to find in some organizations, you walk into their organization, they have a project management portfolio, but sometimes maybe their project management discipline is not mature. And when you find that in an organization, benefits management is one of those areas that suffer. Okay, so when you're looking at benefits management, it's the ability to identify, define, evaluate, plan, track, and realize the business benefits of change initiatives. That ability to take something like customer awareness, which is an intangible, right? Define it. Then once you've defined it, then you've got to evaluate it. What is going to be the value? If we now discover that 60% of LASU students are aware of our organization, and once you've come to an agreement over that, then you've got to plan it, and then someone has to keep an eye on it, and then you've got to actually make sure that it happens. Somehow, you've got to make sure that as you've recruited about 20 people who are going to go into LASU and are going to identify these people, you've got to make sure that they actually come back with results that make sense. So you need to be able to realize that business benefit, that we have now identified that actually only 30% of LASU students are aware of our organization. What are we going to do with that information? That's a project in itself. The awareness, being able to say that, okay, being able to confirm to your senior stakeholders that, you know what, you were going for 60%, only 30% are aware of us. What do we do now? Okay, what do we do now? So the benefits management process, is about first of all, getting into that discipline, because again, the reason why organizations such as ourselves, TC Resources Technology, have decided to come together and approach project management and business intelligence the way that we show it to you is because what you'll find in books is very different from what happens in reality. Okay, so being able to get into the right frame of mind, being able to initiate good practice is part of our working lives. The reason why we have what we have today is because somebody has decided, I'm going to do these things differently. So benefit management is one of those things that really slip in a lot of organizations. So being able to identify and structure benefits, being able to plan them, being able to realize them, and being able to evaluate them, that, after we've done all this activity around benefits management, this is the evaluation, these are the results. And trust me, if you do any sort of, wishy-washy, mago-mago type of approach, trust me, the facts will speak for themselves. Because sooner or later you'll realize that, okay, you came back and you said, when you know for a fact that, you know, the 20 people that you recruited, they didn't really go around the whole of LASU students, and you didn't make that clear in your evaluation. Now your senior stakeholders will now be making decisions based on the fact that said, you want, in fact, 80% of the students actually know us, and they're like 80%, really, and then they go and make a business decision based on the data that you have provided them, only to find out that the return on investment for them is less than 20%. So they're thinking to themselves, but the people told us that it was 80% of these people, so why are we not getting the traction that we expected? So these things will eventually come out. Okay. So when you are doing benefits management, what you want to do, you want to build a robust business case. If you go through that cycle that I just shared with you, you know, as a project manager, one of the first things that you should be ensuring when you go into a project is making sure that the people that they give you know what they're doing. As a project manager, you are very reliant on your business analyst. Your business analyst needs to be sharp. If he or she is not sharp, you need to raise that as an issue quickly, because business analysis may not be where your strength is. So you need a solid business case. You need to maintain focus on final outcomes. Another reason why you need solid people on your team is because you are the one, project manager, you are the one who's overseeing these things. You are the one who's overseeing these things. So you've got a solid business case. You're maintaining focus on final outcomes. You're improving stakeholder awareness of an engagement with the program or project in order for you to get the benefits you're looking for. The people who you are to deal with are important. They are the stakeholders. Your stakeholders could be broken down into all sorts of groups who have all sorts of different interests. But in order for you to have success, all these people need to be engaged. And as the project manager, that falls with you. Improve communications by providing an evidence-based rationale for change. In order for you to continue to keep your senior stakeholders engaged, in order for you to keep your team engaged in what they're doing, in order for you to be able to deliver that change that you're looking for, communication is key. A project manager practically spends 80%, 85% of their time talking, engaging in different meetings, in different groups. They're motivating their senior stakeholders. They're motivating their team people. They are motivating their suppliers. They are motivating all the time, influencing, negotiating, talking. If you are a shy person, right, this is the time to forget your shyness and come out of your shell if you're going to be a project manager. Okay. Increase the chances of successful business change. All of these things, if you're able to get a grasp and an appreciation of them, they will take you to that place of successful business change. They are going to be the ones that take you to that place of successful business change. So let's move on quickly. Another area that I wanted to talk to you today about that tends to be overlooked. So I've chosen the areas that tend to be a bit challenging, they tend to be forgotten, they tend to be overlooked. Okay, change control. The ability to establish protocols to alter the scope of change initiatives, implementing the protocols when necessary, and updating configuration documentation, including contracts to develop, maintain, and apply quality management processes for change initiative activities and outputs. Wow, what a mouthful. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about change control is do not confuse it with change management. People do that often, okay? Change control, essentially what's happening, you've got your business case, right? You've got to the point where the business case has been signed off. You guys are actually planning. You've even developed some stuff. Now, one thing that is always constant in life is change, right? Now, especially if you're going to work in digital project management, you must embrace change. The fact that today you're talking about your client and they've told you, yes, we want our website to be blue. It's going to be great. That's our color. We love it. Yes, fantastic. And then The powers that be decide that the same website is not going to be pink. So that now comes down through the different communication channels that, oh, project team, sorry, but now we have to have it pink. And you say, no, sorry, you've said that you want it blue, and that's the way it's going to be. That's going to get you out of business fast. So when a client comes with change, this whole definition is basically saying that you need to establish ways. Protocols means ways, process, whatever. It's just a big word for ways, okay? You've got to establish ways to change the scope of that change initiative. So now when your stakeholder comes and they say, we need to change this, no problem. All you need to do as a project manager is to identify within your organization the change control process. Because remember, you are project manager of a piece of work. You may be managing it on behalf of your organization, or you may be, you guys might be, the whole organization may be the supplier to another organization. No problem. You want to change. First of all, my lovely client, you are going to create a change request. You're going to create a change request. So change control as a project manager is that ability to understand, to first of all understand that there needs to be a process to be able to bring this change about into this initiative, and then to be able to identify within your organization how that change process works. So first of all, the change is received from the client. Fantastic, we will accept that change. But before we can officially accept it, we need to go through a process. So the change request is made, it is logged. Why is the log important? The log is important because if somebody comes down the road about 2 months later and says, no, we didn't say that. We've always said that it must be blue. We've never said pink. No, why would we say that? Then you go to your change log. In your change log, we'll have the person who initiated the change, the date that they initiated it, the conversations that were had. But if you don't have a change log, it's going to be hearsay. So you have your change log. And then once the change is logged, then there will be a committee for change control. And that committee will be convened, and then analysis will take place. But actually, before the committee is convened, you as the project management manager has to do the analysis. What is the impact of this change that they're asking for? The whole thing, the whole project, the whole website is blue at the moment. What is it going to take for us to turn it pink? You do the analysis of what that means. And then you bring it into the change control forum, which will be made up of not just yourself, but your peers. This will all be part of your governance process. There will be different people within your organization and representation from the client side that will come together and discuss. And then a decision will be made. And when a decision is made, then you will communicate what that means. Okay? When a decision is made, you're saying, right. So first of all, you come into your forum and you discuss, and you have a very good look at what the impact of this change is. What is the impact in terms of money? What is the impact in terms of time? What is the impact in terms of resources? Do you have those people? Can you make this work? Then you go back to the client. This is where the communication comes in. And you say, right, we can do this for you, but this is the impact. This is the impact. This project now was slated for 4 weeks. It's now going to take 7 weeks. This is the cost as a result of that. And these are the other things that you need to bear in mind. Okay? The fact that now you have chosen this shocking pink color, what the impact is to the things that we've discussed in the past, your brand image, the outcomes as a business you are going for, your target market, all of those good things. And then that communication will start, and they will either accept it or they will reject it. And then you come into implementation. Okay, so but before you come into implementation, actually what you then need to do is, once the decision is made and you've communicated it, then really and truly you document. Once they've accepted, you document those updates. Then your plan changes, your budget changes, your business case changes. All the documents that you have written now need to be updated to imbibe this change. Okay, and then you go to implementation, and then you go to verification. Okay, you go to implementation and you go to verification. Right. I'm sighing, I'm thinking for a moment, because I'm thinking, should I take questions now, or should I just try and get through and then take questions in a minute or so? So we don't have, the last thing, we're going to go through two other areas. Let's go through the presentation and then I'll take questions afterwards. Okay. So the next area, so that was change control. Okay, that is that ability. And if you're in an organization where they do not have change control, then this is where your fundamentals, your best practice, your own taught knowledge, this is where it then comes into play. Because just because people do not observe rules and regulations and best practice, it doesn't mean that they will still not apply. The reason why they call it best practice is that it's been tried and tested over the years. There's no escaping it. So if you're ever in a situation whereby there isn't a change control process, then you need to raise that as an issue. Okay. So frameworks and methodologies. Okay. Now this is the reason why I brought this one in is because it tends to be used interchangeably. You know, so you've got methodology, you've got framework, toolkit, process. They're more or less the same thing. You know, these are, you know, different ways of looking, you know, the definition of a methodology. So, you know, set of principles, tools, and practices, you know, approach to doing something with a defined set of rules and methods, what to do, when to do, how to do it, and why. Defined, repeatable approach. That's essentially what methodology is. You know, how is it that we go about doing what we do? Okay. So the reason why I brought that up is because there are times where people use the word interchangeably. It pretty much means the same thing: a framework, a methodology, an approach, you know, a process. Okay, so that's what I want you to take away with that. All right, they all pretty much mean the same thing. So if you look at these highlighted areas, those are that's the part of the definition that is important, you know. And now, how are they used? How are these different methodologies, how are they used? Okay, so we have some examples here of frameworks or methodologies. Prince2, a very common one. In fact, I heard not too long ago that it's old. Old things are not useless. The fact of the matter is that they are tried and tested, you know, and the principles that they imbibe do not often change. They could alter a bit, but they do not often change that much. Okay, so Prince2 is a process-based methodology. Okay, so it's based on processes. Okay, so these are different methodologies. Prince2 is a different methodology. Scrum, we'll be using that a lot in digital project management. Lean methodologies, principles, they're essentially different ways of doing things. So the use of frameworks and methodologies, they ensure comprehensive and consistent management of change initiatives. Now, why is this important as a project manager? As a project manager, you and your team need to define very early on in your project what methodology you are following. What is the methodology that you're following, so that everybody that can come on board will know that, oh, here we are following the Scrum methodology. Here we are actually following the Prince2 methodology. Here we are following the Lean methodology principle. That's the use of these frameworks and methodologies. It means that as a team, you don't have to come and recreate the wheel every time. You don't have to start scratching your head. Oh, you know what? How are we going to go about this? How are we going to do this? There are already so many frameworks out there, so many methodologies that you can follow. Just pick it up, bring it into your team, and get on with the work. Project managers are not paid to write and write and write and write. They're paid to deliver outcomes. So in as much as you have to spend time creating all these documents, that's not actually the deliverable. Your deliverable is the outcome. The reason why you are creating all these documentations is to save your backside, basically, is to prove that you've actually given this a lot of thought and it's been documented. But don't submit to me a timesheet where all you have done is really a whole lot of documents and tell me that you have been working. There better be some outcomes. There better be some outcomes. I want to see some results. That's what a senior stakeholder will be telling you. Okay, so the use of frameworks and methodologies as a project manager, as a business analyst, planner, whatever it is that you are, whatever bit of project management you want to get into, go and find out what frameworks and methodologies are peculiar to the area that you want to get into. And the last area we're going to look at this morning is governance. Okay, governance in project management refers to the policies, processes, standards, procedures, and guidelines that determine how projects are led, run, and controlled by an organization. The way MTN governs their projects may be slightly different from the way an organization within pharmaceuticals govern their projects. For one thing, an organization in the pharmaceutical industry will probably have to go more stringent governance than the projects in a telecommunication industry. And for both of these organizations, GDPR would be a massive issue for both of them. And they would have to bake that into their governance. Okay, they would have to bake that into their governance. And also when we're talking about governance, we're talking about the financial aspects as well. How are these decisions made? Okay, so generally, when you talk about project governance, it is very much influenced by the corporate governance of that particular organization. You know, what are the rules and regulations within that organization in terms of their vision, their mission, their core values? You know, if you come to places in the UK where one of the things that they stand for is to not impact the environment. They are very green. When you go into an organization and they say that they are very green, you will see in how they do things, to the point of how they throw things away. Like in my organization, we're very green. We're very conscious of the impact that our business is having on the environment, to the point that they will do posters to say, switch off your monitor at night. To the point that in every area where we throw away rubbish, we have about 3 or 4 bins. 1 bin for paper, 1 bin for plastic, 1 bin for food waste. So that's where you see that governance, this thing is important to this organization. So therefore, it filters right through the organization. And then you talk about things like how, what is their tolerance of risk? Some organizations are their risk appetite is higher than some organizations, depending on what it is that they're doing, what is it that they're trying to achieve. So essentially, all of this up here will impact the project governance. So if you are a project within an organization that they are very green, the people that you will be working with, the suppliers you'll be working with, will also have to have the same values that you have. You can't just say, well, my friend manufactures this thing that I'm looking for, so I'm just going to go with them. No, you can't, because your organization is very green. Okay, so if your friend is not very green, sorry, they can't work with us. That is the kind of impact that has. So generally, when you're setting your project governance, it will be influenced very much by the organization that you are in. All right. So what does it look like? What does governance look like? Okay, very important. sometimes overlooked. Who is the sponsor for your project? Who is the person who is at that level on the top, who is at director level, hopefully director level, who can get you answers to your questions speedily? We've run out of money. Okay, this impact that we're dealing with, this risk that we're dealing with has now become an issue. What do we do about it? That person has to be at a sufficient level in the organization to be able to get to you resolution quite quickly. Okay, and then then you're going to find that once you've got a project sponsor, then you've got to have a project board or a steering group. These are the people that will represent the different areas within the project. Somebody will be representing the finance, depending on what the project is actually, what it is that it's made of, where it is impacting in the organization. That is what will form your project board or your steering group. What is also very important is to now define everybody's role and responsibility within your project. What is it that the project manager is going to be responsible for? What is it that the business analyst is going to be responsible for? If you do not get those things documented and agreed from the get-go, you're going to have problems down the road. I've seen it happen many times where all of a sudden now it's like, no, that's not my responsibility. No, from where I come from, I've been a project manager for 20 years now. Everywhere I go, it is the business analyst that does that. You avoid all of that by documenting this. Okay, and then lastly, your project processes. How do we manage risk? What does stakeholder engagement look like? How do we do communications? How are we going to do all of these things that we need to do within our project? They need to be defined, agreed, and documented, so that if anybody is at a loss, suddenly decides that, oh, for whatever reason, they are going to be doing something different, you bring them back to the governance. Sorry, you may have been a project manager for 60 years, and this is how you've always done it. But when you come into this space, this is how we do things here. Have you noticed something about this governance piece? 75% of it is about people. Processes will always work. The difference between a process working and not working is the people that operate within the processes. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the presentation, and I think we've got about 4 minutes to take questions if there are any questions. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right, let's take the questions. Okay, let's see where the questions at. Okay, I've pretty much thought that would probably be it will be a lot of questions. Yeah, I didn't think there would be too many. Okay. All right, so we don't really have any questions, right? If you've not heard or anything, don't worry, it's being recorded. You know, what you need to do is always make sure that you go over the lectures. You know, the videos are always uploaded on time. Go over them, and if you have any questions, come onto the Telegram group and ask your questions, okay? That's what we're here for. We're here to shed light on these things, all right? So we've got about 3 minutes before I have to hand over. So if you've got any questions, let me see if there are any here. You're very welcome, Midara. Very welcome, Zeblon. Very welcome, Samson. So, you know what, guys, we're on a tight schedule this morning. I'm going to hand over to my esteemed colleague, who's now going to take you through the business analysis. You guys have a fantastic day, and you know, do not allow any challenges to stop you from what you're going through, okay, from what you're going for, okay? So that's what I'm going to leave you with this morning. So, Mr. Davidson, are you ready? Right. Samson, do you have a question? Okay, hold on. I haven't seen the question though. Okay, did you raise your hand, Samson? Do you want to unmute yourself so that you can, so that I can answer the question? I don't see any question in the chat, so okay. Okay, let me see. Maybe I have to unmute you, Samson. Let's unmute Samson. Samson, I think you should be able to speak now. Yeah, you're unmuted. You have a question? I should stress more on change initiatives. What aspect of it? What do you mean? Are you talking about the change control process that I shared? Or are you talking about change initiatives? They're two different things. Because when you talk about a change initiative is basically something that needs to happen differently. So whenever you're running a project, it's a change initiative. Projects are used to bring about change. So say, for instance, you're in an organization, the GDPR regulation that was passed some years ago, and now you want to now implement that into your organization. That's a change initiative. You're now going to use a project as the vehicle to bring about that change. So if you're talking about change initiatives, generally, that's what that looks like. But if you're talking about the change control process, that's something different. So can you be a bit more specific? Okay, so Samson, we're waiting. Mr. Sadu, do you have an idea of what he means specifically? Okay. Oh, I see. Good, good. That's good then. Does anybody else have any other questions? The next class is just being prepared now. So if you don't have any more questions, what we're going to do, actually, I remember the memo that was sent out yesterday. We have a 10-minute break so people can actually have get a glass of water or something. So if you don't have any more questions, we're going to have a 10-minute break, and then we are going to take the next class. But I would just hang about here, looking at the keeping an eye on the chat to make sure that there are no questions. So while we wait for the business and analysis class. Okay, right, let's do that. Okay, 17% now. Okay, where do we get the 4 methodologies, materials, any source? Okay, now, what you need to do is, in that particular slide, what I was saying was that those 4 blocks are not 4 different methodologies, okay? What they are different ways of explaining the word methodology. because it's such a trip up in project management. Even the people who are English, okay, they sometimes get confused between what is a methodology, what is a framework, what is an approach, what is it? It's the same thing. That's the point that I'm making. But if you want to look at the different project methodologies that are available, just go on to Google. Like Mr. Davidson always says, make Google your best friend. Seriously, Google is definitely a God-given idea. That can only be God, okay? No doubt about it. I don't care who is the CEO of Google. God woke that person up and gave them that idea. So the different project methodologies that are out there, go into Google and just type in project methodologies. You've got Prince2, you've got PMBOK, PM Body of Knowledge, you've got Agile methodologies, okay? And under Agile methodologies, you've got Scrum, you've got Extreme Programming, you've got Kanban. There are so many methodologies out there right now, so many, okay? So again, as project managers, business analysts, whoever it is that you want to be, don't go and recreate the wheel. Don't go and try and start something from scratch. There's plenty out there. Make Google your best friend. Okay, make Google your best friend. Now, how am I going to are you okay? We were just taking a break.
Thank you so much, Tayo.
Okay.
Are you
Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tayo, for such an expose. It's and I'm sure it's always a brilliant section with Tayo. And good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Mofe Davidson, and I'm going to be taking you guys on business analyst today. Just a second, why I do some magic to just a second. Can I confirm that you guys can see my screen, please? Hello? Can somebody unmute and let us know if you can? Hello, guys. Can somebody hear me? Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Today we'll be looking at business analysis, and I'm sure you guys had fun with Tayo. Now, I think it's important to reiterate something. Whether you're a data scientist, whether you're a project manager, whether you are what's it called now? Whether you're a business analyst, data scientist, these courses, you agree with me, they cut across one another, and it is important that David Oyebisi is asking, when is the certification ceremony? Good question. I would say that it's down to LASU, and sorry, I need to stop this recording. I need to stop the recording. 1 second, please, and then start my just a second. Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. So the host button has been passed. Okay. Sorry, apologies for that.
Sorry, excuse me. I just wanted to ask, do I need to make you the host?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. Okie dokie. So okay, okay, that's it. Yes.